Roll call. Valerie?
Yep. So Olson,
Here.
Cronin,
Here.
Christensen,
Here.
Garrett,
Here.
Hull,
Here.
and Mumper is excused.
All right, item number 4, introduce new planner or new assistant planner, Aaron Anklum.
So this is Aaron. He started with us about a month ago, actually. I think it was
16.
on the last plan commission, or the board meeting in January. This is his first day. So.
Welcome, Aaron. Welcome. All right, public comment. It asked 3 times. Is there anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment?
Village of Weston, Wisconsin.
Yes.
Meeting of the Plan Commission and Joint Village and Town Extraterritorial Zoning Committee
Do you need to mute someone?
during the 26th legislative session.
Can't hear, who's that?
I think it was just
I think it
feedback
was-
from a phone, I think that might have been Milt.
Oh, okay. All right, second time. Anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Third time. Anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Hearing none, we'll move down to minutes from previous meetings. Item number 5, minutes from August 8th, 2022, joint PC and ETZ meeting. And item number 6, minutes from January 9th, 2023, regular plan commission meeting.
Motion to approve 5 and 6.
Second. Motion by Ermeling, second by Zagami. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried.
ETZ needs to act on number 5.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Hull, second by Christensen. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Item number 7, written communications received.
We have none.
All right, moving on to public hearings. Item number 8, adoption of 2023 official zoning map and official extraterritorial zoning map for the village of Weston. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Presentation by staff.
So each year we adopt basically the official zoning map for the village and the ETZ. This way, it's good for historical purposes, and then if something happens where we only have to go back to the previous year if somebody's asking for a zoning, if they have a question on something. So we've been doing this for a number of years. We typically do it right around this time because we usually get updated parcels in February from the county. Going forward, I think we're going to get them faster, so we might be able to actually do it closer in January. But this is just the official map for 2023.
Okay, public comment period. Is there anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Second time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Third time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff.
Staff recommends approval. The committee and the commission will each have to take separate action. And it's a recommendation to the village board.
So moved.
Which one?
The official map.
For the plan commission?
Yes, please.
Second.
All right, so for the plan commission, we have a motion by Deason and a second by Princeton. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried. And then you need a motion from ETZ as
For
well.
ETZ, yes.
Move to recommend approval by the board of trustees.
Motion by Hull,
Second.
second by Christensen. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Item number 9, project number 202-30021. Cage Engineering Incorporated. On behalf of owner MKB Weston 2 LLC requesting a rezone of 6207 Business Highway 51 from B2 Highway Business to PD Plan Development and approval of an associated general development plan. PIN number 192-2808-192-0987. I'll open the public hearing. Presentation by applicant and or staff.
Michael, are they on?
There's people on, I'm not sure who you're. Do you have a
Hi,
name?
everyone. This is Dan Ray with Kensington Development. We're representing TWAS Properties LLC for this site. Thank you for hearing our application this evening. Jennifer, did you want me to go over the GDP or?
Sure. Just kind of explain your project to them.
Sure, happy to. Tidal Wave Auto Spa, obviously, it's a car wash facility. It's a self-serve facility, single tunnel. So there's just one car in at a time. So we are going to be located. It's a 1.14 acre lot, which is, I believe, an old Pizza Hut that is no longer in service. Kind of there, circled in red. It's on the, call it, southeast corner of 51 and Volkman, and we'd be tearing down the existing building there and creating a new car wash facility with self-serve vacuums. The grading of the lot goes up in the southeast corner quite a bit, so we'd be eating into that existing, I think there's like a timber retaining wall there, and we'd be creating a new, nicer segmental retaining wall at that corner, so we could expand our site a little bit with the usable area. Here is our site plan. So as you can see, the entrance and exit is off of Volkman Street. So you'd enter in, kind of go on the south side of the lot, swing it around all the way to the east. So there's plenty of stacking space. And then it goes into 2 pay stations where you select your wash. Tidal Wave's model is either you can do, a single use where you're paying for the day, or you can also buy like a monthly pass, which is what they really like people to purchase. So you can go to any Tidal Wave auto spa location with that monthly pass and get a wash per day. As you'd swing through the they call it the tunnel, the car wash tunnel, you'd either come out and you can exit onto Volkman, or we also are maintaining cross access with the grocery store to the north, or you come in and use the self-serve vacuum base, and then you'd leave after that. Tidal Wave really prides themselves on the facade materials. They spend a lot of money on nice masonry, a lot of glass. They like you to see inside the wash. They feel like the clientele really feels much safer doing that instead of just like a big old cinder block tunnel. So they do invest heavily on their facade materials. As you're looking at this elevation, you can kind of see it looks like overhead doors on the side. So depending on what wash level you purchase, it'd be somebody standing there and they'd power wash off the vehicle if you purchase that package for the day. Along with the tunnel car wash itself, there's also a canopy structure that is over the vacuum bays to keep them from the inclement weather, and it's very similar materials. It's steel columns, but the roof structure is the same standing seam metal roof to match the tunnel bay itself as well. And then there's a couple other ancillary structures that go along with the program. There's a vacuum equipment building that houses the equipment that powers all the vacuums. That's in that top left corner. There's also there's a pay station that you use, which is kind of in the center right there, that you pay when you enter the wash, and it's got the gates, but all very similar materials with masonry and roofing that match the wash. And then on the right there is the just the dumpster enclosure. So it's open on the top, but it's masonry on the sides and steel gates. So it's a nice material. This is our landscape plan. Just like the building itself, Tidal Wave prides itself on a nice looking site. They always keep it clean, but they also typically provide a landscape package that is more than what just underlying code requires. So they want a very nice site that's attractive to their customers. Scrolling down, that is our utility plan with the utility services pulling off of Volkman. There, our Cage Engineering is on the call here. Should anyone have any questions or request any more detail on this? This is a multi-million-dollar investment by Tidal Wave. It's a huge investment to them. And they have done studies in your area. They feel this is a great fit for their product. Just with the existing businesses and the traffic count, they're very excited to join the community. As far as zoning, we don't believe we need a zoning change, but there are some variances that we need to submit part of this PUD application with some setbacks that we can get into. We feel that we do fit within the comprehensive plan zoning for the business district, the B2 business district. As far as overall schedule, Tidal Wave would love to start as soon as possible. They really would love to open by fall of this year. These are just a couple more detailed architectural elevations. You had seen some kind of smaller snippets of this earlier. These are all, I believe, Jennifer, I believe these are all just, we took snips of all these plans and put them in the earlier presentation, the GDP presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add, Jen?
So this is the general development plan. They would be back next month with the specific. They've already submitted and staff is in the process of reviewing. So if there's anything that anyone has questions on or wants changed, now would, I guess, be the time to bring it up. Like you said, they are very interested in getting moving on the project.
Stormwater, I've probably questioned that. Are they dumping it also on Business 51 or no Volkman?
What was the question, Shanky?
Stormwater.
Stormwater looks like it's going into.
I'm guessing that would end up in Business 51.
I thought they can't discharge it directly, can they?
It's under an acre, so that could.
1.14.
Is it 1.14?
Yes.
Okay, so there might need to be a revised stormwater plan there. I guess I haven't looked at this yet, but so yeah, if it is over an acre, for DNR compliance, we'd have to look at some other discharge there or treatment prior to.
Is it 1.14 of disturbance?
I don't think it's.
You gotta look at the disturbance.
Yeah, so I guess it'd be the total area of disturbance. So.
Okay. Yeah, we're very close to that. We might just be under an acre. But we understand if we're over that acre of disturbance. there will need to be some type of BMP or some other treatment for that.
Yep.
Good point. Before we get too far with our discussion, is there anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a public comment? Second time, anybody online or in the audience?
Just a question. How many car wash we have in village?
This will be the second one like this. Then there is one at the old Callan, which is the Quick Trip. There's one at the
Shell station.
Birch Street and then the Shell.
Any other?
I don't think the other one's working anymore. That's across from the loop or next to the loop,
About 5.
spread out through the
Oh,
village.
oh.
That
Actually, and the other Quick Trip does too. All 3 Quick Trips.
And across from the old municipal center.
That's a hand wash one, yeah.
Was the store out on J?
Yes.
No?
Yeah, the one on J does. J out.
The Quick Trip on Barbican does it.
With the R does.
No, the store is on the other side. Arby's has got one on the other side.
They'll have, there will be one, I think, at the Quick Trip. On
51.
Business 51.
Sure.
Yes. St. Clair's is it?
All right, third time, any questions or comments from the public regarding this issue? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna close the hearing. Recommendation from staff,
Staff recommends approval.
then discussion by us. I do have a question. Do you guys have a plan for snow storage?
We haven't developed one. We understand we will need one. There's, if you can see to the north, there's some call it like parking area that's striped off from the festival foods that we would plan on like piling in there's some green space back there that we would just have to, spread it out along that property line if need be.
Okay, so that road that runs, I guess the driveway that runs along the north side of the property there, that's not curbed or anything?
No, it is not. That's on Festival Foods property right now. It's a current parking lot that we're basically cutting off because their parking lot extends onto the tidal wave property.
You always have an option to haul it away too.
Yes, that is correct.
I just didn't see it on the plan, so I just was curious, that's all.
Yeah, we
No,
took
it's a great point.
it during the review, so.
Dave?
I was wondering, how far they plan on excavating into that hill in the back to the east, and what's that, retaining wall, how high is it? How high are they planning on having it, and what's it gonna look like? What are they, it's gonna be a poured concrete wall, or is it gonna be something different?
Great question. Spencer, I'll try to hit this one and jump in, please, if I'm explaining it wrong. So it's right now planned to be a segmental retaining wall, so like a block modular structure that's engineered for the height. And at its tallest, I believe it's about 9.5 feet tall. There's currently like a timber wall that's probably about 3 feet, maybe 3 feet. And we'd just be kind of pushing back maybe, I don't know, 10 or 15 feet, Spencer, does that sound right?
That's about right.
I know that timber wall is in a pretty bad state of.
It is, yeah. Yeah, what we'd be putting up is more of a permanent solution versus a timber wall.
Will that be tying back into the bank for geofab or geotech for holding the block, or?
Yeah, all that would be engineered, but typically what happens is Rex it, and then they put the geo fabric. It sounds like you're familiar with that. It just kind of ties it back, and then it's backfilled with stone when they're doing that.
They look nice. That's like Cador's to put it on the north side.
What's the anticipated traffic or car count of the facility on a daily basis?
Great question. Let's give me 1 second. So
As many as you can get?
yes, I mean, obviously it all depends on weather. So the Institute of Traffic Engineers typically say the peak hour trips are 78 based on a single tunnel car wash, which we are. So that's entering and exiting. The busiest hours are 4 to 6 p.m. on a weekday as people are coming home from work, or on the weekends typically are pretty busy as well. But I mean, if it's open from 8 till 8, I don't know how that averages out. But if if you use 78 times 12, let's do some quick math. It'd be about 936 trips.
Okay.
How many people working in there?
That really depends on how busy they are as well. On a typical, shift, you'd probably have like 4 to 5. But if it gets, really busy, they'd staff up just because people are going to be, or if like if you have a period of nice weather after inclement weather, which we're experiencing now, they'd probably staff up because a lot more people would be purchasing the more expensive washes, so they'd have the side doors open and with the power washing. But on average, it'd be about 4 or 5.
Is all of your traffic coming onto Volkman, or what's the plan to separate that from the Festival Foods, where there is none? It's just they'll both go both ways.
So we have to maintain cross access to Festival Foods. There's currently a cross access agreement in place, so we have to maintain that. I would say the vast majority is going to be coming off of Volkman, but we'll be getting some, cross shopping type of action too from, people going shopping and wanting to wash afterwards, or vice versa. They come and get a car wash and want to go shopping afterwards. But majority off of Volkman.
The only parking for employees is in Festival's Yard, which is to the north of your building. Is that correct?
No, what they actually do is they have their employees park in the vac stalls.
Oh.
So they're just kind of like, there's a car there, so people can't use those vac stalls when their employees are parked there. That is Title A's program.
When I assume you have to have delivery of chemicals or pump the basins that are there, something like that. Is there ample access for trucks to get in there? So it'd be kind of tight unless they can stretch a hose across.
Yeah, the biggest type of vehicle that needs to come in here for just servicing, probably is like a box truck. There's no like semi-traffic or 6-wheel type of vehicles. We do need to do a trash enclosure, obviously, so that there would be a dumpster, a garbage truck that would come in here, but the engineer has done the logistics and feels the garbage truck can make that turn there.
The fire department and police department have reviewed this or not yet, Jennifer?
Not yet.
And then, have you talked to Festival Foods, the neighbors about it? They're good with it? Do they have any comments, questions, objections?
Yep, great question. Festival Foods actually owns this property, so we're purchasing it off of them, and they're in full support of the development. We had to coordinate our design with them, so they've signed off on everything.
Excellent.
Do you have any contact with the salon or whatever on the other side?
We didn't hear anything. They would have received the hearing notice.
Anybody have anything else, or should we go through the determination? All right. So just for clarification, Jen, we're rezoning this from what to what?
So it's going to the PD district
Okay,
from B2.
All right, number one, is the proposed rezoning consistent with the comprehensive plan as is required by Wisconsin statutes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Number two, does rezoning further the purpose and intent of this chapter?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Number three, does rezoning address any of the following that are not properly addressed on the current official zoning map? Number one, a mistake was made in mapping on the official zoning map, that is, an area is or has developed in a manner and purpose different from that for which it is mapped. If the reason is cited, it must be demonstrated that the discussed inconsistency between actual land use and designated zoning is not intended, as the village may intend to stop an undesirable land use pattern from being perpetuated. Number two, factors have changed, such as the availability of new data, presence of new roads or other infrastructure, additional development, annexation, or other zoning changes, making the subject property more appropriate for a different zoning district. Three, growth patterns or rates have changed, thereby creating the need for a rezoning.
Yes, number two.
Two, all right. Everybody else agree with that?
Nope.
Okay. Number four, does the proposed zoning district maintain the desired consistency of land use intensities and land use impacts as related to the environs of the subject property?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Zagami.
Second.
Who's that by? Second by Deason. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So carried. Item number 10, request by village staff to amend the Village of Weston official zoning map to address the zoning map oversight associated with the zoning text amendment approved in ordinance 21-011, which repeals certain overlay zoning districts and created a PD plan development district. The zoning map amendments that are the subject of the public hearing are as follows. You got B2 and institutional listed. Do I need to read that?
No.
Okay.
So the two properties,
I'm gonna open the public.
oh, okay, go ahead.
Open the public hearing and presentation by staff.
So the two properties in question, were basically, well, it's actually three properties. The Renaissance is actually, two separate lots. But these properties were originally created back in the early 2000s as our previous plan development, which was an overlay plan development. So in 2015, when we basically got rid of the plan development in the new zoning code, we had to create basically separate districts for these. They were their own kind of overlay districts that still allowed those properties to exist the way that they were approved back with as the plan development overlay. So the first one is the Weston Marketplace. Back in the early 2000s when that went in, that was something that was new to the village, and that was the only way that that property could be developed the way that it was with the multiple buildings, with the buildings closer to the streets. So that was it was a D-WM Weston Marketplace overlay. The Renaissance had its own overlay at that time that the second edition went in. Part of that property was in the TIF district, part of it was out. So that was a unique situation too. So in 2021, we put the PD district into the code. So basically created a plan development district, again, to allow us, we were seeing some unique projects that we necessarily didn't want to change the zoning code for, but at the time we wanted to allow them to happen, but go through the plan development process. So as part of that, when that ordinance was created, we were supposed to basically get rid of the DWM and the DR district, and those were supposed to be rezoned as part of that ordinance to the PD district. So when we were looking at the map, we haven't actually had a printed map for a number of years. We saw that those were still on there. So in talking to Mark Roffers, who had helped us with that plan development district, this is his suggestion. So we're basically asking you to rezone those properties to the PD district because in the code, neither the DWM or the DR exist anymore. So that's kind of the long story.
This doesn't really affect their property.
It doesn't affect the way that those were set up, they had to come through approval from the Plan Commission, and over the years, you guys and the Plan Commission have seen things for Weston Marketplace.
So that doesn't restrict them or doesn't, by us changing this, doesn't restrict them from doing anything differently than what they did prior.
They would just, if they want to change something on the site, they just come through site plan approval.
They would have to update an SIP though, right? Or make an SIP?
Basically.
Like we're accepting it as it is now because it didn't exist and this plan development didn't exist in.
Well, basically what the SIP is just a site plan. So it would basically come before, they would have to look at their whole master plan and add whatever they're adding to it, through the plan, and that would come through the Plan Commission for approval. I don't anticipate them doing anything more on that site. They can't put another building due to some of the, they've got some covenants with the existing, the first building that went up, that they can't cover that one, so they're
Which
kind
site
of.
are you talking about, Jen?
So that for Weston Marketplace, so they have that big area where we have the farmer's market, they can't use that for anything because they've got a covenant for the 3910 building, which is the one that has the Jimmy John's, they can't cover that building. So they have to be able to see it from the corner. So they won't add any more additional buildings there. So I don't see it doing anything, but it just allows it to exist if they have to change something.
In Rennes? Okay.
Yep. They basically don't have any more space there.
They're out of space, yeah.
All right, anything else? Public comment period. Anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment on this matter? Second time, anybody online or in the audience that wishes to make a comment on this? And the third time, any public comments? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Recommendation from staff
Staff recommends approval.
and discussion and recommendation to the board by the Plan Commission. You have a determination to go through if you guys are ready to do that.
So I don't think there's a new map in here, but the map we approved on number 8 was as it sits today. This is to change the map that's in number 8 to add these 3 parcels in PD. That's not in the packet, correct?
Right, so this is,
So we're recommending to the Board of Trustees to change the map we approved
yeah,
15 minutes ago to make these 3 land development and then
we
approve
had to
the new
do it
map.
that way because of the way the hearing, I mean, I could have done it the other way and had a fresh map, but if you guys decided not to change it, so, yes.
So just for clarity,
Jen, can that be changed before the board, or is that not?
It'll be up online that way, so basically all it is that first one that you did just gives us a starting point for the year. And anything going forward is a rezone, so Tidal Wash is a rezone, this one is a rezone. You'll have some rezones next month already.
So then those rezones, will that be just updated on next year?
Yep, no, they get updated after you guys approve them and the board approves them, we do that, but that's just our starting point for the year. So that's the official map.
So when you guys have a map that you had in your offices, or you
I'm gonna have him make a big map, and it'll have everything through this point, if he gets the map done. And then going forward, we'll just draw on it until next year. But online, they'll always be the most up-to-date one.
determination?
Sure. All right, item number 1, is the proposed rezoning consistent with the comprehensive plan as is required by Wisconsin statutes?
Yes.
Yes. Number 2, does the rezoning further the purpose and intent of this chapter?
Yes.
Yes. Number 3, does rezoning address any of the following that are not properly addressed on the current official zoning map? A mistake was made in mapping on the official zoning map. That is, an area is or has developed in a manner and purpose different from that for which it is mapped. If this reason is cited, it must be demonstrated that the discussed inconsistency between actual land use and designated zoning is not intended, as the village may intend to stop an undesirable land use pattern from being perpetuated. Are we in agreement that that's one we should pick, or do you want me to read it too?
No, I believe it's number one.
Number one. Does the proposed zoning district maintain the desired consistency of land uses, land use intensities, and land use impacts as related to the environs of the subject property?
Yes.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Gurn, second by Eason. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. Project number 2 is unfinished business. Project number 20220392, Bryan Street Rentals LLC, conditional use permit to construct and operate a personal storage facility within the LI Limited Industrial Zoning District per section 94.4.06, parent 3, on property known as 6508 Ryan Street, pin number 192-2808-221-0985. This was deferred by the commission to February 13th on 12/12 of 22. Looks like we have a request for an extension.
Yes, so they have asked to extend to defer action until March, should be March 13th. So that's your next meeting. The board meeting would be the 20th.
Okay, so
March 13th.
13th, okay. Do we need to take action on that, or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Motion to defer, is that what we were doing?
Move to grant the extension of deferral to the 3/13/23 meeting for the requested conditional use permit 2022-03902 to construct and operate a personal storage facility within the LI zoning.
Second.
motion by Pincinel, second by Jordan. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. New business, item number 12, project 2023007, site plan approval for the Green Heck Turner Community Center, 6400 Alderson Street.
So the school district is ready to start the community center, and staff has reviewed the site plans, and there's just a couple spots where we need some waivers from the plan commission. So they are super close with the parking on what they need. We're asking for approval of a decrease in the required number of parking spaces. They actually, as they stated earlier when they were here, the uses will not be happening concurrently. When school's in session, they won't be using the rec center to its biggest potential, so there should not be the need for all the parking. And then they also are asking for some reductions in landscaping, which this is basically considered a building addition because it is being attached to the current Green Heck Center.
So if they combine all the parking, they should have sufficient parking there.
It's just a little short with the uses.
But
How many parking stalls do they have right now?
So if Michael can bring it up.
I think that's gonna be a moving target, isn't it?
Yeah, we
Currently-
tried to do as best we could with.
Currently versus what it will be coming up will be different. You're up.
Correct.
Right, so when you say currently, I think that, you guys should probably communicate that there's a redevelopment of the parking lot as well.
We have that, so that is the redevelopment.
Well, he asked, what do they currently have?
Oh, yeah, that, they're changing things around, they're adding a new parking area, where the existing, where the old admin building, bus barn area is.
So right now there's 512 to park,
Well, 60 and 122 in the
but
back.
just student parking, what's there? Because students can't park in.
Well, that's
parking.
gonna be the change plan, isn't it?
This
Yeah,
is the
it's-
change plan.
This is the change plan. Yeah, just state your name and address again, please.
Jason Jablonski, 9306 Lambert Street, Rochelle, Wisconsin, Director of Buildings and Grounds for DC Everest.
Thank you.
One of the things to keep in mind with the plan is, right now we have straight parking. We're trying to do angle parking for the kids to try to keep it a little bit safer, so we do lose some spots from what we currently have. But we did that for safety. I think right now, are we at
Just a little.
700 roughly, I think, right around there?
Jen, if you've got, the Green Heck Turner plans that we submitted, I thought that plan set, because there are two plan sets that went out here. And if you've got that one, that should have the existing parking coming out of that thing.
I think that's the existing one right there.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep, let's see the plans.
I don't know if there's any indication how many stalls are on there or not.
Yeah.
Count quickly, Michael.
Is it?
But ultimately,
In that drive that goes east and west, or sorry, north and south, just rotated, right in front of,
That says existing asphalt.
no, further to the west, way up by the building. Right, in that main drive, what does that say?
920 proposed.
976 total.
So that's the existing lot with that ADA parking there, so I would say we're adding 400-ish, 500-ish. Oh, sorry, it was 1,200.
1,270, I think. it was.
No, I was never that good with numbers.
I didn't want to go against you since you're the expert, so.
So we're adding about 300.
300.
We lose some in the main parking lot once we go angled, obviously, it just takes a little more room and then, but on the secondary lot that's up by the maintenance building, those will be just straight stalls. It's kind of more overflow for Green Heck Turner. We weren't as concerned up there with keeping angle parking for the kids.
And that's where the existing, or the former administration building was?
Where the bus garage was, so I think it was Lamers that owned that at one point in time. The district bought that about 5 years, 6 years ago now, I think.
Not open parking.
Correct.
Buildings, so.
So you'd be short 272 parking. Am I correct?
that's if everything was functioning at one time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, because they said total spot needed 1,250, proposed is 978, so difference is 272.
So some of the areas will be allowing student parking, because right now, when I go up to the house, it's like full, the parking lot. I mean, I turn up there and it's just,
Yeah, we're a unique site where we bring all the newest drivers to one point on purpose, right? And nowhere else do we do that around the community. We have, with our new plan, there's a frontage road that comes into the front. So what we're trying to do is separate the kids from parents and parent drop off or people coming to the building to visit. So there will still be parking up by the front of the building, but we're not allowing student access to kind of go through there anymore. We're cutting that off. So we did that on all of our other schools. We tried to move busing and parents away from kids because it just creates too many problems. This site is no different. That takes care of that problem.
but there will be enough parking then. If it's full now, and you're cutting back, you're adding some other places where they can go. So
Yeah. So that 341 up here is all new spots.
Right, yep, those are all brand new.
Do you have an overflow plan? I mean, in the event that for some reason you had stuff going on at all three locations at the same time?
We have in the past, let Mount Olive work with us. They take over our lots whenever they have big events. We would expect, the same in return if we do have a big event. We do also have, it's a gravel area back behind the existing Green Heck Fieldhouse that we use as kind of a practice field. So that whole northern half is kind of just a graveled area. If we really were in a bind, we'd probably shift some traffic back there, at least employees.
Sure.
Mount Olive has been our go-to, and we are theirs for church. If you go by a church,
they go through our lot too. So it's good for both of us, the overflow both ways. But we have worked with them and done busing back and forth and different things like that, so.
Whose idea was it to put the islands with the angled parking?
Are you asking whether or not we'd rather have islands or not?
Correct.
We would rather not have islands.
Can we do that here? Can we make the islands go away and put 64 more parking spaces in there?
We would prefer that. When we sat down with REI and with Mike, I think it was kind of discussed whether or not we would get approval through the board to actually do that, because it was a requirement to have those islands. We would have preferred to do every other if we had to, but we didn't want to come to plan or to you guys without a plan to have them if it was required. So that's why they're in there. We would rather not plow around them, to be honest with you. We'd rather just have spots right up to the end.
Well, not only that, but you're gonna have inexperienced drivers driving all these things. I mean, I'm all for extra business, but
If we can make that decision right now, I would support that 100%. We only did it because we thought as part of the planning and approval, we would have to. But our first go at this was definitely not to have them. We didn't want them. We didn't want to plow around them, and we didn't want kids to get stuck up on them, which they will, or they'll just try to clear them, and
so you would add those additional parking spaces then?
For sure.
64 additional parking spaces.
Yep. Yeah, we would take, anywhere you see an island up on there, we could go and make those additional spaces.
Anyone else object to that?
No, I think that's a good idea. No, I'll speak for Joe. I think we all understand we look at pick and save or what happened there, I think. Do you guys plow that?
No.
Would you want to plow it? No, I'm just being honest. It's difficult, and you got kids in here too.
And there's not islands currently.
What do you guys, right now?
No.
Yeah.
No, and the 25s, are those lights? Or 22s? No, that's just a count on stalls.
Those are cones. There are actually lights in the center of that aren't around an island. It's just a sonotube filled with concrete in the middle of those spaces. And then there are some on the islands.
Okay. I think it's, I think you had a whole lot of labor to this thing and a whole lot of smashed up curbs and smashed up cars and a whole lot of cost to install the islands. Yes. And what's gonna go into islands?
Trash?
Well, yeah, if we're being honest, what the kids will leave in it is one thing. The intent was to do like bark or something in them.
And so it's more maintenance.
Yep.
Every year.
Yeah.
If it's not dragged out into the parking lot.
Correct.
And in your storm sewer.
Or washed out.
In your storm sewers.
Right.
The decorative rock with some field turf.
Yeah, we're looking at a little bit of turf in the front. I don't even want to give you the price tag on that, so.
Did you have any problems as it sits now with students not, obviously coloring in lines and parking in lines are probably problems with that, but you don't have islands right now. Do you have people goofing that up?
The only time we have problems, like anybody, if we get some snow and we get a dusting, like in the morning, you're gonna have kids, they come in and they park wherever they feel like it. They don't try to figure out where the lines are. They just put their car and they walk away. But we'll have that no matter what, whether you got the islands there or not. The rows will, they'll turn into a horseshoe by the time you get to the other end.
We're putting heat in this thing.
Right?
So I would be fine with, if we can get a few more parking spaces back and cut the islands out and.
I counted 64 that you can add.
Yeah.
So that gets you how close to your number?
Yeah, within 150 probably.
I thought you were only like.
But what about over by right across from Mount Olive where you have your 341 where West Barn was? Can we get rid of that?
Yeah, we can take those islands out
They're only
too.
36 off.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, yeah, so we would get that easy.
So why don't we just give them as many more as we can? Sounds like we're concerned about, Barb, you're concerned about it too, is if
I don't think cutting those islands gonna increase your parking.
But you can put two or three parking spots in every single one.
No, take a look at it, see, it's gonna be short
Yeah,
for the road, for the drive area.
if you're gonna have two vehicles in there, it is.
Yep.
Mike, is it good, are you gonna get two stalls on there?
No way.
In that lot over by.
No, in the existing 512 lot. Are you gonna get,
Two per side? Probably not.
no, one per side.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But I can see these islands, the plows hitting them,
The kids,
breaking it all up in the end.
we're just the planning commission.
We definitely, that was our first, that's what we wanted. Again, we just, when we sat down and talked it over with our, the thought was.
It's here for you guys.
No, I get
So
it,
you
but
can-
it still has to pass the board,
It
right?
doesn't have to go to the board, this is just.
Oh. Oh,
Is this violating any ordinances or?
They're required to have some, but you have the ability to, I mean, we're bringing it for parking and landscaping, so they'll have to revise their landscaping plan. All these plans are gonna have to be revised.
what's going in where the old admin building was?
Do you have a copy, Jen, do you have a copy of the landscaping plan that we sent?
Yeah, there's a new one.
So what we're trying to
It's not in
do,
here.
where old admin was, we have all of the fiber for our site along with the Central Wisconsin can goes through that area.
Oh,
So we run other people's fiber through there along with ours. So we really didn't want to touch that too much, but we have a plan that takes that and makes it into like a little park. So there's like some little gravel paths that go through there, and then there's some like natural grasses that get planted in there, and then there's going to be some flower beds for community or kids or whoever want to go plant something down in there. So it's really just kind of a community park area. That's what it turns into.
So because of that utility issue, you didn't want to expand the parking over that area?
Yeah, we didn't want to have to relocate our fiber and all the other fiber from the area that was in that area. That expense alone, we probably couldn't even afford to look at.
Sure, okay.
Are these parking all going to be marked?
So currently, we number them, and then we give the kids numbers. We're not sure if we're gonna go back to that or keep that. It's a lot to keep up on, just even verifying that those kids are using those spots. So I'm not 100%, that's up to the high school if they wanna continue that. If they do, we'll number them, and if they don't, we won't.
Still, there should be some
Michael,
kind of a
the
sign,
plans
row A, row
in
B,
the
row C, something.
Folder now.
Yeah, and the rows, I mean, the kids, like right now, they have an actual spot. It's a number that and they have a sticker on their car that corresponds with that number. That's what we currently do.
Called landscape.
Right.
Yeah, these, they even personalized them last year.
Yep,
Something.
yep.
Thought some were rather unique. Well, I don't know, I would recommend
Well,
that we allow
That's
the items to be moved if, you know.
Yeah, there's the landscaping plan. You can kind of see that center area. It's got, just an area for the community to go. And we talked about actually taking this and partnering up with the senior high and make it like a class-led type project where between the science department and some of our tech ed classes, that they would make this a project, they order the materials, they work on it. So we're working on that right now, kind of behind the scenes. If they decide that it's not a feasible project for them, then we'll just put it out.
Jason, or Mike, where that the new driveway comes in off of Alderson, could you gain any more parking if you were to, instead of where that hook is? Can you go to that 512 picture where it shows the parking stalls? Is that incline just too difficult, Mike, to get up to Alderson if you just hook that and then you pushed more parking stall to the north?
Yeah, that slope, once you get south of the main entrance, you're getting close to like a 4-to-1.
It gets too aggressive?
Yeah.
Going to the south?
What's that?
Going to the south, it gets too aggressive?
Yeah, the further you go, the worse it gets.
The other thing that we tried to do with this plan was to really add in some sidewalks. Right now, if you were to come to the senior high, let's say you were going down Alderson and you were in a wheelchair, you would have to go across the parking lot. There's no way to get to the school otherwise. So we added sidewalks and, tried to make it easier for people with disabilities to get into the site.
So you're adding that sidewalk all the way along the front of the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it goes from parking lot to parking lot. That way the kids aren't just cutting across a lot. I'm not saying they're not gonna cut across a lot, but at least there is a sidewalk option.
Is this just here for approval from us tonight?
Yep.
It doesn't have to go to the board?
It's just site plan approval.
Dave?
I was just wondering, could we just touch on stormwater? There's no retention pond with this project, right?
There is with Green Heck Turner, there are, what are they, 8 feet by?
It's an underground system.
It's an underground system.
I forget how long, but there's 3 8-foot diameter pipes that lie in that fire lane north of Green Heck Turner, and that takes all the stormwater or meets the regs, the stormwater for the building addition, the parking lot, repave, the parking lot expansion, and the tennis courts.
And where's that all go?
That road that's just to the north of Green Heck Turner where the 2 arrows are, it's actually embedded underneath that. So it goes that whole length of that area between the tennis courts and the building.
Yeah.
And then there's an overflow that'll go into a ditch system that kind of goes past the volleyball and into the existing storm sewer on that west property line.
For what it's worth, we've got an NOI approved from DNR on that already.
So if you change those islands and make more impervious area, you might have to change.
Well, that's impervious already, those islands, aren't they?
So that goes all the way over to Alta Verde?
They had barking.
Yeah, I don't know what you had shown in them, but.
Yeah, so that storm sewer goes to, actually this one goes down to Hughes. And then it enters the storm, or Everest. It just goes straight, it's going straight to the river, essentially. It goes down Everest Ave, and then it hits Northland, and then it goes to Hughes, and then it comes across Volkman and into the Wisconsin River.
Isn't there a pond back by the?
There's a retention pond behind the school. There's actually 2 of them
That's
back there.
uphill though, it's up here.
Oh, okay.
And there's another one back from the, when we did the referendum work,
Yes, that's
right up in there.
And the admin building has a pond that was built with that too, right at Alderson and Jelnik.
Is that pipe is 48 inches?
Which pipe?
The one on the north side, not the north side, no.
Like from this site going to,
It'd be on the west side,
I believe
the
so.
one going to the river.
Yeah, eventually it's a 60-inch pipe, but right here, I think, it's about 48 probably.
Well, it must have met requirements that the DNR was involved in.
Yeah, the DNR, so the treatment system, it was approved by the DNR, correct?
And the outfall, I'm sure, Mike, that it had to meet requirements for what you were dumping it into.
We had to safely pass the 100-year storm for DNR.
Is that similar to like what was just put in at Aldi's?
Correct, yeah.
Kind of the same concept?
Yep, and Walgreens has one too.
Okay.
So what we put here, they're gonna come back again with this, right?
No.
No?
No,
Well,
No, so I'll make a,
Unless you wanted to.
if we approve it and you guys, the only time they would have to is if they decided to modify their parking lot, or the islands, correct?
If you want to come back,
I don't think
otherwise you can, I mean, if take it off and staff could work through it with them in the next week
Yeah,
or so.
they want to bring it back, yeah.
Okay.
so I would make a motion to approve the Green Heck Turner Community Center and Parking Lot Renovation Project based upon the submitted site plan with parking lot number waiver and the removal of the parking islands.
You also need a waiver for the landscaping because that'll be affected.
We haven't gotten to that point yet, have we? Discuss the landscaping.
I'll second that.
Your motion.
Then we can go to landscaping after.
Okay, so we have a motion by Jordan second by Pincinot. On the discussion,
I'm just gonna question to make sure that we clarify that we're allowing them not just the 512, that we wanna allow them to do 341 as well, right? We wanna take them out of there as well?
correct?
All islands
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
and any parking spaces that can be added by removing those islands need to be added, please.
Correct. To your point, though, I didn't see anything in the packet or on about the landscaping.
It's farther down about removing, or if they need trees by the ball field.
How far down was it part of the,
I've read all 112 pages, somewhere's in there.
That's in there.
Yeah, page
Jason,
72.
can you get us up to speed on that real quick?
The landscaping?
Yep.
So what we're doing is a couple of things. We are landscaping around the Greenheck Turner site itself. And that's very similar to what I think the village board would probably recommend or requirements would be if you look to the point system. What we're looking to do though is, when we had the islands, we didn't want to put trees in the islands. We didn't want obstructions for the kids. So we want to keep a couple things clear. We want to make sure that we have clear line of sight for the kids when they're coming in and out of the site. We also want to make sure that we have clear line of sight for all of our cameras so we can see the site, just with safety and security issues.
So the landscape plan that I had you just do is the one that came after I did this already.
Oh.
So the packet was out, so my suggestion to them was that they could remove it along the baseball field, which is what.
Is that on page 79, Jen? Where I see a red line?
Yeah, so they already removed that, they gave it to me like 2 hours after we sent out the packet. So the new one that Michael had up there does not have that on there. They'll also be revising it because they had trees in the island, so those will be removed too, so.
so I think we need to make an amendment to the motion then if we want to include the landscaping modifications. Correct?
We can vote on two
Or
separate
add-
ones.
Or add another recommendation.
Correct.
So the updated landscaping plan already has that removed. They'll have to update again to remove the landscaping that was in the islands.
Are these all new trees on the east side by Alderson? There's like a few trees there now, right?
Yeah, everything that's noted on there are all new trees.
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay. You
I'll
need a second to it, so second to withdraw it. So we have a motion Jordan's gonna withdraw his motion, we have a second by Pincinel. We need to vote on the withdraw or no?
Yeah.
Okay. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, so carried. Okay, so we're back to the drawing board with the motion.
So we don't have the landscape drawing in the packet then that we got earlier from,
It's right there. I actually printed it. There's 12 copies upstairs. I can.
Okay.
So this is the plan that so the only thing different than what was in your packet is they removed the landscaping that they are showing along the drive entrance by the baseball field.
I guess, here's the question, and this may be frank, but we're not landscaping Nazis. We're not. Is it suffice is it close to what you guys would require that?
Oh, yeah. So they're just gonna have to revise it now because you guys are removing the parking.
And we're okay with that, you guys can deal with them on that, right?
Yep,
So,
just needs to be put in the
so
motion.
we're eliminating the ones by the ball field when we first come in,
Yep.
because you guys wanna have.
They already did that. So this plan removes that because when we saw it, we're like, you really don't need that.
And then the islands. And is there anything else that you guys are having heartburn with?
If we could, if we could just work on how many trees, and we have to mow around them, they become a little, troublesome for us. But we still want the site to look good, so I think we're gonna try to at least, bed out a few areas and put some trees in. For the guy that has to take care of it, I would only put in trees I have to put in.
I understand that. I think one of the things that I keep in mind is the neighbor across the road that was grumbling, right?
Right.
I want to keep him in mind just because I see you do have some trees there, right? But I also don't want to take away from the visual look of the school either, because I think it's very impressive when you drive by. So I'm torn on, you know, if we could keep maybe some of the neighbors because of the height, right? I was completely fully understanding with the elevation differences that night, but I also don't want him to be so pissed off that he's got to stare at that thing all the time. So, I mean, if we could do something with a couple of trees up in front of those residential houses.
We could follow this plan in the front. We're okay with that. I mean.
Well, that's a lot of trees to mow around.
It is a lot of trees.
Oh,
but
man.
It definitely would give the one neighbor that you're speaking of across the street, he would definitely have a obstructed view, give it 10 years from now.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot, but I mean, I think of how long it's gonna take for some of those to mature. I mean, I think on paper it looks like a lot, but it probably isn't gonna look like that when it's all said and done.
How far those three are apart?
Mike, do you know roughly, how far apart those trees are?
I think it depends upon the tree, Mike, am I saying it wrong? And then what a potential, what do you call it?
The canopy,
The canopy, yeah.
yeah,
So you don't hit-
recommended is 40 to 50 feet at least.
I don't think they are.
No, those closest little ones, I don't know, they look like maybe 12, 15 feet, something like that.
You're gonna have problem, they're gonna have problem. 10 years from now, they're gonna run to each other.
Yeah, some of them I think could be like a flowering crab type tree, so they're more for.
So some of them aren't even gonna probably do much for the neighbor.
No, there are some, I know he's got some maples in there and some, I think he's got a few oaks in there. We had him plant a couple of evergreens because we didn't have any evergreens and it almost seemed fitting we should, since we're the evergreens. So we had him add some evergreens, but I think, you know, when the landscaping designer puts it together, they look at from the different colors the trees are gonna have in different types of the year and what that's gonna look like, so.
Well, here's the other thing that you gotta take in consideration as well is, Michael, we've had that situation as well, in some of the subdivisions, is when you plant these things in the boulevards or anywhere near where you're salting them roads and you're plowing, that snow gets winged way out by the trees, the next thing you know, you're killing your trees because of the salt. So,
Right, it's a concern.
And some of these species just don't do that well in that close confinement.
Right.
They need more room.
Yeah, who's doing your landscaping?
Well, the design was through REI.
I think you need a landscape architect to do that for you. They do a better job than engineer. I'm engineer. Don't let engineer do your landscaping.
So this project started at Revi, and the landscape architect at Revi now works at REI. So it's the same guy, he just switched companies.
And Jess Falkowski looked at this and gave some suggestions on tree species, and they had some stuff in there that was gonna get really messy and she didn't think would work, so.
Who is that? What's that name?
Revi or the,
Yeah,
yeah, Revi's company, Kurt Schmidt is the designer.
I mean, I think you need green.
Why don't you walk up there, I'll come up with it.
And trees, I mean, to just look at a vacant lot, I mean, the building might be pretty, but if you don't have some landscaping, it just kind of.
I don't know that it looks any different than it does right now, does it? I mean,
Yeah,
we're
we're
just-
by there later, there's like 7 trees on that entire spot, no? That entire stretch.
we're just adding 150 trees in there now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was our best shot at trying to hit some of the points, right, from when you go to the landscaping plan and you try to hit the points with the village, a lot of it's just trying us to make our best attempt at trying to at least meet some of that plan.
I think some of our concern is too that, I mean, we're just trying to be realists as well, that when these things die, I don't know that we have somebody out there telling you, hey, put your tree back in there if it died. And what flowers and what bushes, and so somebody spends all this money up front and does this, and when the stuff dies, what are we doing about it?
Right.
So are the dollars for this, the dollars for the parking lot, part of the Green Heck Turner project, or this is a separate outfit?
Separate. So Green Heck Turner was 100%, funded through donation. This is all a school expense. So right now, the parking lot, tennis courts, landscaping and design is about 4.2 million.
What is the landscape?
400,000.
The landscaping.
Yeah, so I should say, landscaping at Green Heck Turner around that is funded by that project. So when
That's the
this
second.
approval, we would split that out, it would be one bid versus another. Just for around the building, that would be taken care of through Green Heck. That's about $100,000. And then the site itself has a $300,000 budget for landscaping.
Like, you got an idea on these islands, cost wise? Or these $3-4 grand per piece?
For the curbing? Well, I don't know,
By the time you're doing
$20 a foot,
staking and everything
Yeah.
included?
$20 a foot, and if you figure a parking stall is, use round numbers, 10 by 20. So if you go 10 by 10, 20 by 20 by 10, you're up to 50, double that, 100 feet. 100 feet times $2,000, or $20 a foot is $2,000 for the curbing itself.
Now you got your staking and
Yep,
now you got your landscaping in it.
yep.
What's your pleasure?
I'd like to see some of the trees get like condensed or put into beds or somewhere that it can be maintained realistically. I mean, we can't build a Sherwood forest here and keep it looking good with salt and funk and mow around it. You have to hire 2 full-time weed whacker carriers.
And we only have one grounds guy for our whole district, so.
You're gonna need 2 more.
Yeah, we can definitely, I mean, depending on how the board wants to go through the approval process, we don't have any issue with sending this back. We're not starting this tomorrow. The parking lot, there is a phase 1 where the drive goes in over the first summer, so that has to start by last day of school. But other than that, the tennis courts are the only other thing that have a kind of a start date that we have to stick to because we have to try to meet the needs for tennis, so we have to get done by a certain time. So that actually starts in the spring as well, around March. Other than that, realistically, the landscaping, we're not gonna get to for a year and a half from today.
But with that, Jason, when you say go back to the board, Jen, you're saying this doesn't go to the board, it goes.
He was calling you the board.
Yeah, I guess yeah, maybe I misspoke. If you would like to see another version of what this looked like, what our dream would be, what we really want, we can get REI to revise that and we can have it back here for next month.
I think that just
Be a good idea.
How about if we just improve the parking and let it bring another plan for landscaping?
What's the landscaping plan gonna cost?
Put together,
Yeah, a revised.
we'd probably be, it's deleting and moving things, it's a couple hours at a time.
Just a couple hours?
I thought I heard he was gonna donate it, that's what I heard.
Yeah, I guess I would like to see the landscape and what they want and what they could do so we can have an idea what we're approving.
Yeah, and we can bring it back as just the parking lot landscaping, Green Heck Turner. I think a lot of thought has gone into like making sure that there's enough landscaping around the front of it to make it, so when you're coming in, it looks nice.
Yeah, present, well, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to.
Yeah, I don't think we're questioning that. I think it's more of my thought is it's more of blasting the whole front of Alderson Street full of trees.
Then just do what we normally do for road right-of-way trees. 1 every 100 feet, that's fine.
Are you guys okay with that? Do we need to see anything else besides if we do right away?
I think some of it is just because they're really good parking and they have so close to it, but. if
They only
you're-
have so much area that they had to get points and they're trying to get
So
the
they're
points
shoving it all in,
and it's ram-packed full.
yeah.
So
So I would just have them do the basic, so there's basically gonna be a tree every 100 feet or whatever.
does that work for you guys?
Works for us.
Put some larger trees to pacify the neighbors.
Evergreens.
Or at least
Set
something.
them up so they're across,
Don't have to,
Make sure it's
I don't
right in
think
front
it's
of the
whatever.
picture window. They're on that second.
With the birdhouse.
A messy tree.
I can plant 7 trees across the road too, right in front there.
And honestly, it's just trying to be helpful or respectful.
No, we appreciate it, we really do. Like I said, this was just our attempt to try to get as close as we could to
Understood.
meet the requirements.
wants to take a stab at this?
You wanna do it? All right. So I make a motion to approve the Greenick Turner Community Center and parking lot renovation project based upon the submitted site plan with a parking waiver as to the number of parking places with the elimination of the islands and the landscape plan to be modified to include right-of-way specs.
Motion by Jordan,
Second.
second by Gurn.
Good job, Joe.
On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
When, are you guys getting started this spring, did I hear?
Yeah, we're breaking ground, weather permitting, right, sometime around, end of March, early April on Green Heck Turner. Tennis courts are gonna start at the same time.
About the temps right now, maybe you guys will get a month head start.
But it's been 3 years. Yeah. So yeah, it just depends, I think, on road limits too and how that all goes. But yeah, we're looking to get started here as soon as we can.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Congrats, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 13, resolution 2023-PC-001, resolution recommending adoption of ordinance number 23-002 to amend section 74.6.06 street dimensional standards and section 74.6.11 sidewalks, walkways, and multi-use paths of the subdivision ordinance.
So next Monday, the board will be holding a public hearing on chapter 74, which is the subdivision regulations. The state statutes require the plan commission to look at this first and recommend through resolution to the board. These are changes that were to come to you back in August. And Michael can probably explain them a little bit better. They were for the Birch Street project. There is a draft of the ordinance in your packet showing the changes.
Yeah, so I guess the changes were, went over with the Public Works Committee last year when the Birch Street project was going through design and after some of the feedback from the public information meeting we had with the residents there. So I guess as far as the multi-use path width, so we had it in there that it had to be 10 feet. The DOT does allow 8-foot multi-use paths, and some of the multi-use paths in the village already are only 8 feet wide. They're not 10 feet wide. So the Public Works Committee's recommendation was, since there are also on pavement bike lanes, the 8-foot path really is there just for pedestrian traffic. Anybody who is an aggressive biker has room on the roadway. So they're okay with that 8-foot width. And then the bringing the path closer than 6 feet was at the crossing of the Cedar Creek to minimize the wetland disturbance. So we were able to, I guess, have not have to get into the individual permit for wetland disturbance. So I guess in environmentally sensitive areas, we thought it made sense to bring that in closer. So we're being nicer to the environment and also saving costs. So this would be a item for both the village to follow and I guess future developments as well.
Michael, how does that affect you with plowing? I mean, does that mess you up with that 6-foot then? I mean, I understand there's an environmental situation with it, but you're plowing, are you having to clean, is it just double cleaning or?
No, so like Birch Street this past year was done before winter. You plow the road and then generally the paths are the last thing we plow. So, the road's been plowed and whatever spray, there might be a little more spray on the path, but it's like the county, they go down Camp Phillips and they bury the path, 3-4 times a day. So
yeah,
you gotta just kind of keep constantly or keep an eye on it. So.
What's your pleasure?
I move to approve resolution 2023-PC-021.
Motion by Zagami,
Second.
second by Ermeling. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Okay,
We have Mr. Kinsella no. So carried. Number 14, items referred from the Board of Trustees. This is for PC and ETZ. Discussion of possible modifications to the zoning code to allow fabric buildings for bulk storage.
All right, well, taking your comments from last month, this is our first crack at allowing the, basically the fabric buildings. There's an adjustment to the detached accessory structures for non-residential use. So basically the salt shed that we were talking about. One thing I do want to bring up, since then, Chief Finke at Safer, there's a picture of the structure that he is looking to put at the fire department. We actually added a provision in this to allow them to have that structure over at Safer. So that was a little bit of a change and something a little bit different. It was worked in the same section of the code. I don't know if you have any questions.
What do they do with that?
It's a training, fire training.
Oh, so they start fires in there?
I think
Put
so.
them out?
He just called it a fire training structure.
We probably practice with no light conditions or things like that.
Yeah.
I would guess.
Yeah,
I think they can burn in them too.
yeah, they're basically like the shipping.
They'll put pallets and hay and stuff like that in there and start mock fires and simulate fire conditions.
They want to put that right at the fire station?
I don't know for certain that's
yeah, it shows.
That's what they're doing
He
or
told
not.
me, so up in that little corner there, he said that's where it will be.
So if it sounds like there's a fire hydrant over there as well.
There is, yeah.
Isn't there?
That's where the training.
That's where the tower is right now.
That tower is back in that corner?
Yeah.
I hope they hide it. That thing looks ugly.
Sea container? Well, it's pretty industrial looking back there,
It's
so.
like two storage units or shipping containers.
That's what I was looking
That's
at.
what it is. So he asked, and this is how he could put it there. I mean, ultimately, it's up to the board and the plan commission.
So how do we, this is one of those unknowns, Jen, or one of those,
Well, this restricted it just for fire, if you look at that. So,
yeah, I get that, but what happens when the next guy wants to,
well, it can only be for fire. That's how it was written.
I get that, but
You would have to come for a code change.
It's
if
It's
you
that
want
same
it or
situation that we were in last week where it's good for us, but it's not good for someone else.
The last meeting.
Yes, I understand exactly what you're saying.
the last.
We can talk about those again. We brought them up once before and it never went anywhere because we really don't have regulations on those pods for commercial.
Can you stack them too high right now?
We don't have regulations for them. They just are using them for.
But if you use one for storage, you have to have a fence that's supposed to cover, but you only have a maximum height of a fence. Right? Ultimately.
Well, they're allowed as temporary storage.
Not in the village, are they?
Yeah. Yeah,
Been to Target?
temporary,
Oh,
temporary. So like Harbor Freight, they get in a bunch of stuff that doesn't fit in the store. They've had shipping containers out in the parking lot for, that's probably not Weston.
And Jen, I don't think we even have any ordinances whether.
We don't have regulations. I tried to bring some forward and they died.
Yeah, we didn't want to address it.
So it just.
I think residentially, we said we were fine with it.
Yeah, so residentially, there's a 30-day permit. There's one over on Mount View that we, yes, need to take care of.
So I think the the deal with it was it's in the business park and such, if people want, they have extra inventory or whatever, they want to get that into a waterproof place, they can temporarily put that in there for inventory.
Well, but if they're, and they are, I forgot about behind Target, but they're closer to the residential person right next door than they are to the Target store on some of those. They're right up against the fence.
Depends upon the building, you're right. And I think at that point, we discussed in a conversation of if you have a fence in the yard, that's a shielded fenced in yard, what, you're covering the stuff up in the yard already, right? But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a tough.
I'll be, I mean, I'm shocked because this hasn't come in front of me at Safer either. This is the first I saw it.
We're trying to beautify that.
So, okay, so let's
building and then stick this.
just separate that table that as a separate request for further consideration.
We can remove that. I just was being proactive because he asked about it, so we put language there.
I think that would be a good idea until we can have some further discussion on it.
I think we go back to the letter. I think it's in here about the guy from Central Wisconsin Power Sports or whatever.
Same guy.
Josh, it's the fire chief.
Oh, yeah, it's the same guy.
Same guy.
So, yeah. Well, I think he's made note of it as well when he wanted to put a building up over by his place for extra storage for his inventory, that he was required to have a like-kind building with concrete floor, and he's having issues with this salt shed. Why can't I put that in my backyard then? Right? And I understand where Jen is saying that, well, we're zoned properly for it, or we just make sure it's only institutional or whatever it may be. I think that the requirement.
Well, this is allowing it everywhere. You guys wanted that. So it's allowing it in the INT and then the LI and GI, I believe.
We are accepting any, Schofield Avenue or.
29, right?
Visibility from 29 or visibility from Schofield Avenue are not allowed.
So in deference to the ATZ though, we're gonna approve it in the ag areas. The combined floor area of the hoop building shall not exceed 50% of the floor area of the principal buildings on the lot. That's not anywhere near big enough.
No.
What's the principal building, a house or the barn?
Well, they'll say the
Or the
principal
change.
building.
Principal will be your house or your office or,
Sure. So, yeah.
yeah, so that's not.
How do you guys feel about that?
Is it accepted?
It's already accepted.
Yeah, it's already accepted in ag.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there's gonna be a restriction here for the,
No, you gotta read it.
Oh, I think you can, whatever size in ag.
I thought I saw,
Except for a hoop building where allowed per section 6 or a fire department trained structure shall meet.
I don't think it's changing
standard.
anything for you guys.
It's not changing the ag.
Yeah.
It's basically
oh,
got put in there.
so there's only a restriction. I
They're
thought,
only allowed in the ag right now, so this is allowing them in the LI.
but I thought I read that there was a certain size only.
There is, but then there's an except. So as long as the hoop building was allowed per section 6,
Okay,
which is down further, the hoop buildings have their own spot
Okay.
in the code. So they're only allowed in an agricultural, industrial, or institutional zoning district.
okay, well, and the only, I guess I personally, for myself in the green exit, could you add was it mixed rural or what is the zoning district?
It's the RM.
RM?
I think that's an agricultural district, actually. I think that's considered agriculture. Let me look quick.
You need to make zoning map in here.
Yeah, eventually we will. We just got the plotter back.
Right behind you, right there.
Yeah.
Leave that away.
We don't have anything on any walls yet, but we do need a map down here. We need a map upstairs.
So you guys, or something. I don't know, but it doesn't matter what saying. You could,
Does this,
you're okay? I mean, you guys,
does this allow us to
still restrict.
I'll shut up. The way this is written?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're considered rural mixed.
Say
Zoning map.
if you were a big farmer and you wanted
Where's
to do a
this?
big hoop building up to hold all your hay.
How big of a shed are we looking
Like an
at?
American wood fibers one?
Yeah, similar to that.
Similar to that.
I'm just looking
Let me do the math quick.
Is there a restriction that, say, you want to do it and you want to put all your hay in there or something?
I think,
It's like 7,000 square feet.
Did we, and what color?
Doesn't matter.
They can come in white. I think we can get them in green and we can get them in red. You can do it so you got like a stripe on it. You can put a logo on them.
Just considered guys. So it's got the height.
That's gonna have to come back to
There's a
you.
limit, there's a limit.
Correct, yeah, we haven't bid anything yet.
The amount of
We've been holding off to make sure it actually be.
Make it a neutral.
Is it Keeney that's working with us on that, or?
Not yet. I've just talked to a couple different suppliers.
And you want to hold the store, not just sign, whatever.
I think we're pretty sure that we have other specs that are consistent bids from different suppliers.
Joe, we can add the RM to that.
Okay,
'Cause it's,
I would appreciate that.
it falls under non-residential and mixed-use districts,
What is that?
the rural mix,
Okay.
which is. We have two parcels.
Jennifer, has somebody requested this?
I can't hear you good.
Has somebody requested a building of this nature?
So the village is looking at putting up a salt shed behind this building.
Okay.
And so they would be adjusting the zoning code to allow it in institutional and then a couple of the industrial districts.
Where I want to just make my comment and finish where I was going before with the comment about the building was the perception of what we are showing the public. I can't do it, but if the village can get a loophole, they'll do it for themselves because of cost. That's the only way, I mean, that's the only reason why I'm saying what I'm saying. I started saying earlier about that customer. That's his point. When I want to do it, I can't do it, but if the village can do it, they'll just make their own rules.
Well, anybody can do it. They just have to come to the planning commission or the board and request a code change.
I mean, we saw it 20 minutes ago in the school district. I mean, if you didn't ask them about their islands, they would have said, this is what I need to do. But they said, hey, we'd like to not have the islands. And you guys had the ability to say, yep, you don't need the islands.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, I know the response we get sometimes from people is, what do I need to do? And we say you have to follow the code. If you don't want to follow the code though, you can come to plan commission and ask for a variance or.
And sometimes they want the easy route just to go through staff and they don't want to come in front of a meeting, so they do it.
And I think all we're doing is just trying to, because I think we get to hear some of that stuff out there, right?
Yep.
And all we're doing is trying to,
Want to be fair to everybody.
yes.
Well, and a lot of times they
Tell me you
don't
haven't heard it
ask.
either, Steve, right?
Oh, I've heard it.
Mark's heard it, everybody's heard some of the comments that, if it's village, you'll just make it work however. But, and some of it is probably because we don't understand as a lay citizen, we don't understand the proper way to go through the system, right? We just don't. We don't do this every day. We just most times get told, no, it's not an ordinance, and you don't know any better, you walk away, right? No, I can't do that. So I'm just, it's another perception that I'm just throwing out there, and I'm not being a butthead about it. I'm just explaining to you that we have to be careful with that and just not start letting all kinds of things come in that it works for the village, but you can't do it in your backyard. You know, that's all.
Well,
That's
you
all.
are allowing it in the industrial areas, so that's a change.
Yeah, you're right, John. You brought them points up and I understand that. I just wanted to finish with what I started early on is just taking consideration that we have some people out there that are butthurt about it.
Well, and we bring things to you when we hear them and see them, but a lot of times they don't ever come to us. So with the landscaping, they give us a plan. A lot of times it's overplanted. The landscaping companies, they just overplant it. I'm having Jess look at those so that she can weed out some of that, but I'm not a landscape architect.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's,
think we've come a long way with that with you guys. I
Absolutely.
I really do. I
and
think
there's probably more that we can weed out on it. Some of the situations, it just depends on how much pavement they put on there. Prior to that, it used to be just around the parking lot. That's where all of our landscaping was. It didn't look at the whole site, so.
And I want to commend you guys for that as well, because before it was either black or white, now was that. I mean, there's some situations where people just can't afford to spend $150,000 on landscaping because it says it needs to be that in a code. And then on top of it, 2 years later, when you drive by there, 3/4 of it's dead and nobody's doing anything about it. It's like you throw the money out the window of a truck and drive down the road.
But look at the school. I understand, you know, it needs to look nice, but all that money is taxpayer money. So do we really want to hold their arm and tell them they got to spend all this money when it's?
Well, I think the hard part with that, Steve, is I feel we need to be in the middle of the road with everybody then, right? I mean, I don't think it's fair that we say, well, it's taxpayers, it's all of us.
Right.
We eliminate that, but then the next guy should. I think we just need to relax some of it to be realistic, right?
Sure.
No, I mean, there's certain people that are gonna want their property beautified and they'll pay to do that and take care of it and maintain it. But there's also a lot of people that don't have the time to maintain that stuff or will take care of it and it's gonna die. Or salts will kill it or whatever it may be around parking lots. But I just wanted to commend staff for working with us on some of those things and allowing some of that and understanding that some of that stuff was just very, very, very aggressive, I think. And I just wanted, so enough of my rambling.
No, I agree with you. The salt shed, I've been stumbling with that because we just, you know, we haven't allowed it. Now we want it, so we're opening it up. And that really bothers me.
But the other thing that's changed though, Barb, is the quality of those buildings has gone up significantly, and the requirement for it to have a concrete foundation, I think makes a big difference as opposed to going to Harbor Freight and buying a temporary building that you're going to use kind of on a permanent basis.
Well, then we're opening it up to the industrial areas.
Right.
Which I think
And I think that the wood products company has demonstrated that that type of building is appropriate to look okay in that industrial setting.
I mean, I wouldn't want my neighbor to have one in his backyard, but, you know, but industrial, that type of thing is still.
Would you rather look at the pile of crushed concrete by Norcon, or would you rather look at a hoop house with concrete in it?
I'd look at the hoop house.
Right? I mean, that's what Joe was getting at though.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't
It's an
realize,
industrial area.
I didn't realize that was that building. I'd been to the Schofield's new public works building several times. It wasn't until Joe mentioned it that I drove by there, whatever, a week or two ago, and I was like, he's right, that is a fabric building.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I had driven past it myself, you know, probably several dozen times and never even realized that that's what it was.
They built that one when the first one burned down.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and again, a safety issue, if they have an explosion in there, the roof is gone and there's no shrapnel falling on a passerby, you know, so they serve a real purpose, I think. And if they're built to a quality that precludes the real temporary cheap stuff, I think it makes sense. And I think a lot of the ag guys are starting to use them too in a way that helps them keep their equipment under roof, you know, and all those. Otherwise, those guys are making choices about what they keep inside or not. You know, it's a reasonable compromise.
Mr. Chairman, I move to direct the staff to schedule an ordinance amendment for a public hearing at March 13, 2023, PC/ETC meeting. And also correct the statement, item 1. Jennifer, is that correct?
Oh, you want me to take the safer? Okay.
Correct.
Yep.
Remove the statement one from the,
I'll just adjust it to remove
Just
the
say-
fire department training structure.
okay,
Remove statement
Because we
one regarding
need-
safer.
We need, yeah, we need statement one, but we don't need the or a fire department training structure.
is
You're
there
gonna
more?
add RM in that also? You're gonna add the RM, MR?
Oh, the R.
Mhm.
Yeah, Jen,
Yep,
Jen said she'd add the
I'll
R.
bring it back.
Should have that in the motion then.
Yeah, you want to add the RM zoning district to that as well.
Sure. So add the RM district to the, RM district to the zone.
All right, motion by Zagami,
Second?
second by Jordan. You got the whole motion, Valerie? Yeah. Okay. On the question? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Yeah,
Easton's opposed. And then so carried for the planning, and then ETZ has to do this as well.
Is there a motion on the ETZ?
Same motion.
I'll second. So you have a motion by Hull, second by Cronin. Milt. All right. So motion by Hull, second by Cronin on the discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Well, for the ETZ, don't we just want to leave it in the A? We don't have any industrial GI or LI,
Or RM.
right? But we do have RM. No, we don't. Well, in the ETZ.
I don't
Yeah.
think you
There's
have,
only two parcels.
no, I think the only two parcels are in the village.
Do you wanting it the RM out of it then, or what?
Well, it is clarification that we only want it in the ag, I guess. Is that a different motion? Well, it's already in the ag, right?
It's already in the ag,
Right.
but it would allow for it in, if, you'd have to rezone to, you don't have any zoning in there.
So it's,
I think
it's not applicable to any current
right
zoning.
now, it could be future if
Right.
something gets rezoned to that, but I don't think your comprehensive plan will support it right now.
The only thing I could think of is the RM.
Yeah,
Do they have RM, Jen?
No,
they have the ability to have it, but they don't have anybody that's proposed it.
it's in the code, but we don't have it yet.
Yeah,
But but let's just say somebody had requested, say I had property that I requested RM. Are you not wanting me to have that?
Yeah, that's why I made the motion, is because once they put RM in, we have RM available. And then this would be available in the RM. Correct. I don't know if I'm in favor of that. Oh, okay. So.
Vote no.
Vote no.
Well, let's talk about that. Is it too late to talk about it?
We're
or-
on discussion.
There's a motion on the floor, but we're discussing the motion, I guess, so.
What's the RM size? Is it 20? I can't remember if it's, do you remember?
Can't remember if it's 20 or 40.
of course it's being slow. Let me see here.
Restriction on principal size structure.
Oh,
15%.
so the RM.
I just worry about some quality. I buildings.
Well, do you guys have the portion that needs to have?
It's 20 acres.
It is 20, isn't it?
Yep.
You have to have concrete.
We still have the size restriction.
Can we clarify that, Jen? Does this requirement, if you're an ag, have to have concrete foundation and all of that stuff?
You'd have to call it out, I believe.
I didn't read to say specify. You just said you have to have a concrete foundation.
It says permanent foundation such as a concrete slab, so
Correct.
doesn't say a concrete.
Say-
So again, what I asked was, we did that, and Jen was saying, well, they have ag. Now, if they have add RM or whatever into there, are they following our same requirement, or ETZ following the same requirement of having to have that foundation? Concrete foundations?
They would follow everything unless you accept it out for the ETZ. I mean, there's the ability to do that. We have a couple other areas of the code. It just basically calls out that it's not required. So if you don't want the permanent foundation in ag, we
Well, I
can
think-
do a statement.
I think what Randy, you're just concerned that you don't want some cheap crap. Right, so I think that's why we're asking if the requirement is that they have to actually have, somebody's gonna pour a slab, they're gonna hopefully have a quality.
Well, it says attached to a finished permanent foundation, so, I mean,
And these other requirements are applicable then.
it says no hoop building or structure of similar design shall be permitted.
So the 15% restriction applies in the RM, correct? Sub D.
If you're adding it, yeah.
Right, if it's adopted, these restrictions A through I apply in the RM.
Yes, so the statement of one states, so if you go back up there, it accepts for a hoop building where allowed per section 6. That's for the ag. Section 6 is down below. So it has to meet those requirements.
Correct. It can't be a Menards or a Home Depot.
Well, you can buy some pretty good sized buildings in a container from, that's true, you know. Somebody that's $3,000-$4,000 and they're just 10, but they're 30 by 60, you know.
Right.
So that's what I don't want, I guess. But if we go to permanent structure and they'll follow those requirements, it should be all right.
That's what
I think that's under 6, it says a permanent structure only where meeting all the following requirements, it's gotta be A through that I. Located only within an agricultural, industrial, institutional zoning attached to a finished permanent foundation such as a poured concrete slab or basement. No more than 2 such buildings permitted on any lot serving any principal use. Combined floor area, all buildings shall not exceed 15% of floor area of the principal building. That's why I was asking that question for you earlier. If their principal building is 1,000 square foot farmhouse, they can only put up 15% of that for a hoop building?
Should that be modified to say except in ag?
That was my question earlier. I don't want
But the ag already allows the hoop building.
Yeah, so that's,
that's where I don't understand. I just want to make sure you're.
That's
I'll
why,
verify it, but I think it's allowed elsewhere that it wouldn't affect it.
so the only thing in the ETZ, since you added the RM, and ETZ has it the RM, although there isn't any current RM zoning, is that if there was property zoned RM, it would have to follow this for a hoop building in the RM.
Correct.
So it's much more restrictive than what's allowed for a hoop building in the ag.
But if we're adopting this right now, isn't it located only within an ag? Couldn't this be a little bit, if I read this, couldn't this be a little bit confusing to me? To me, I would think it is. If I'm reading this in the ETZ, it's saying located only within agricultural, and I know if we don't have industrial or institutional zoning, combined floor area of a hoop building shall not exceed 15% of floor.
I think those end up falling underneath the residential use, some of them. 'Cause there's a whole nother section on residential uses.
We had it in residential.
We don't, we're only looking at,
We're looking under 6 and A through I. I'm just confused on, isn't that telling me, you gotta help me with this, because I'm feeling that it's
it's limiting it to 15%. I don't want to limit one of your farmers to 15%.
I think there's another area of the code that's not referenced.
So it's,
Is the problem.
yeah, this references a non-residential principal land use. So I think in ag, like if you're on a farm,
Usually.
that's a
there's-
residential
Yeah,
principal
there's-
land use.
A farm is?
Yeah, because somebody's living there, right? So.
It's an ag, yeah. Cause it's basically, if you would scroll down, there's another one called detached accessory structures for residential use. And that one, it talks about, except within the AR and RM zoning district, no hoop building, tarp shed, or carport shall be permitted as a detached accessory structure for residential use except on a temporary basis. So that's where they're allowed.
Yeah, I'm just confused.
Yeah,
I don't read this code every day. I just wanted to make sure that.
I'll verify, but I
Limiting.
think the ag stuff falls underneath.
On item number 6, wouldn't you want to keep in where it says except within an agricultural zoning district? Would that fix the problem right there?
No, because you're wanting this in other districts.
Although you're saying if you.
But this is just referring to the hoop structures, so you would want to exclude, because you don't need to follow those standards in the agricultural district.
Correct, yeah.
So I would think item number 6, if you just left that first sentence in there, that would fix this entire, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but.
Yeah, I think it's right.
So what you want is to not change the requirement in ag zoning of this, if we do this, right?
Correct.
So it's just a matter of checking, see how that language needs to be modified.
Yeah.
All right. We had a motion on the floor, I think it was Hull and me. So,
Can I ask one more question before if we make this motion or if somebody accepts it, is this permanent or do we want?
No, we
Close the
have to
hearing.
schedule a public hearing, so there's
Yeah.
possibilities to
Change it there.
change, but I at least have to move it
Thank you.
forward.
all right, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So carried for the ETZ. All right, is that everything for them, or do they need to be here for item 17 as well?
They probably don't need to be here. If there's any changes to the code, they'll be here for it, so they might wanna stay, but.
We can probably adjourn ETZ, huh?
Well,
Yeah, it's up to you. Talking about stuff.
Adjourn it, they can still stay if they care.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn ETZ if you'd like to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hall, second by Christensen. On the question, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Staff reports, items number 15 and 16. January 2023, staff approved certified survey maps and site plans, and January 2023 building permits.
Move to acknowledge 15 and 16.
Motion by Zagami,
second.
second by Gurnt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So carried. Miscellaneous, item number 17, request by Commissioner Pincinel to discuss possible amendments to chapter 94, Article 14, special zoning district, specifically the procedural requirements for the PD plan development district.
So I asked for this to be on the agenda here. Was reading through how this goes and hopefully Jennifer can correct me or steer me in the right direction, because for a lot of us, it's hard to read this stuff and actually get out of it what we're supposed to. So we've had 2 in the last 2 consecutive months, I think, requests for plan development area. And I want to preface this by stating, I don't at all intend to hold up a developer. If anything, I want to streamline this process and make it easier. I think right now, it is not easy for the developer. If I'm reading this right, it shows that if me, the developer, wants to come in, and if I'm Tidewash, before they came here tonight, they were supposed to meet with the planning commission and the zoning administrator for a conference before they are even permitted to apply to have that parcel rezoned PD. So in December or January, they would have met with us before tonight's meeting. So we would have got the initial flavor of what they wanted to do to see if we would even entertain that. But the way that the code is also written, so then they would go through and do what they did tonight with their general development plan, but they can't even start working on their site implementation plans, site improvement plan, SIP, the actual specific plan for what they're going to do on that site until after the rezone is approved. So they can't even start, according to the way that the code is written, until after the board would approve it next week. I mean, the limits are gonna be off, and everybody else is gonna have a shovel in the ground, and they can't even start until July. If we follow the way that this is written. I just think that could maybe be streamlined or tuned up a little bit to be more developer friendly. Am I understanding that right, Jennifer, or am I?
So the district is basically created, they're asking for special things. So they should have to have a little bit more hoops to go through. They should have come in for a pre-conference with you. We've kind of been being the fact that it was just me the last couple of months. I was going off of memory. We had never brought anyone before. We'll do that going forward. When I was talking to Mark Roffers a little bit about this, in some of the codes, they have basically where they could have come right, you kind of skip the general. They can go right to, basically, they could have come in for their whole SIP. We don't have that. That's something we could add in for somebody, one of these smaller sites. In the case of like, when the Sherrills came through with West Fest, it's a larger one. So they will do like the big plan, and then they'll come in specifically for pieces of it because they're not gonna build it all at once. So it kind of takes, there's different sizes of the projects. I mean, this could be a large mixed use project. So I could see adding that provision to allow them to skip the GDP and go right to SIP with the rezone. That's something. In this instance, they didn't give us the material fast enough to us to be able to, I mean, we have it right now, we're reviewing it, but a lot of times they give us the rezone package. We've got to go through the full site plan and review it. And we just don't have the time, typically when they're giving it to us to meet a hearing deadline.
But doesn't this state you can't even look at that stuff? It says,
And I think that's what Jim was trying to say is when you said, in the future, we'll do that. I think he's trying to say is, let's not do that. Let's try to do
But
it.
we can remove it.
I think what you're,
The
that's what you're saying.
pre-conference.
I was gonna ask the same question.
I
Is
mean,
it
we do
necessary
a
for us to have a
pre-conference.
pre-conference?
So basically, they would have a pre-conference with staff, and then they would have a pre-conference with you guys. I mean, we could bring something if it's a large project. On these smaller ones, I didn't think it was necessary.
I don't think it's necessary to have a pre-conference. If you want to throw it on the back end of a meeting and just say, hey, this is what we're working
I
on,
mean, it
this
can
is
be
coming
like
up,
a
great.
concept. A lot of times they'll give us that in the
I think that's
pre-conference.
all you're asking.
right, yeah.
You're
I just-
asking- you're
If
asking
these
if
are the
you-
rules, we're not following the rules, so let's make the rules so that they make sense, because the last 3 or 4 of these that we've done, I'm almost guarantee you, we can look at the minutes, but I would almost guarantee you that the Quick Trip Lovakin's outfit, that didn't go through this process. They didn't have a pre-trial committee meeting.
They had a pre-conference with staff.
With the planning commission?
Not with the planning commission.
Yeah, it's required to happen with planning commission when the code is written.
I think let's remove that. I don't know if we can make that motion here tonight.
It'll have to go through a hearing. You guys have a pretty full March meeting already, so I won't be able to tackle this for March. But
Aaron can take care of it.
I can make some changes.
He's a heavy hitter, you can tell, just look at him.
Yeah, he's gonna have to help with all the other stuff that's coming.
Aaron looks so young.
He's probably gotta get his driver's license first. He looks pretty young, Husheng.
Don't try to intimidate him.
I'm not.
He'll do just fine, but
Be nice.
I know. He's a,
I think the general direction from us would just be that we need to clean it up so that we're following.
I'll make some changes
Procedure,
and we'll bring
right?
it before you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we followed the procedure in the last couple, so I don't think that we've done it wrong per se. I think we've done the developer a good service by not making them go through this, because like I said, they wouldn't build that this year. If it followed this, it wouldn't be done this year. No way. Because you couldn't be looking at that SIP. You can't even accept that SIP until after the GDP is recorded at the county and you have electronic copies within 30 days.
I'm all for being easy to work with. I want to encourage people to come here because, so I would agree. Let's make it easier, clean it up.
I'm not saying you're doing your job wrong. I'm just saying, if you did it per the letter of the law, you can't look at that yet. We should be looking at it. Absolutely. We should make it easier for business, but these rules are flawed. They need some work.
I think making it easy is one thing and making the project appealing to the eye, looking nice is different things. We gotta make sure, yes, it is easy, but at the same time, they gotta build something on Schofield Avenue is nice.
I agree with you 100%, Husheng, but I didn't see you vote no tonight because they didn't follow the procedure. I didn't see you say, no, Tidewash, we don't want you. Come back when you followed all the actual rules and regs. You didn't say that. You said, that's a good looking building. Stamp it, yes, moving forward, right? 'Cause that's what I saw.
That's what, well, all of us did that.
Right. They didn't do anything wrong in that regard. They came here, we had some questions. You had, with the retaining wall, what's that gonna look like? How are we gonna do that? They had answers for you, and there were some other things that they're gonna tune up and bring back. Like, I think that's, to me, that met that pre-trial conference thing that we're supposed to do. And we look at their GDP. I would love to have them have a site plan here. There's a whole lot of chicken and egg stuff here that they can't make a site plan unless they have that direction, just like DC Everest. Well, gosh, wouldn't it be nice to not have to have them pay to redraw all that stuff again? Redo the landscaping, redo the DNR letter of intent, all that stuff?
But I think whatever we did here tonight with them, that's our job. That's what we're supposed to.
For sure, yeah, we should do that. But
I think,
our rules should.
but I think what he's saying, Husheng, is.
Well, I understand.
They have to come to us and have a conference before they even had all that fancy stuff that we saw.
We couldn't see that at all until they came to us first with.
Well, they probably would have had that because their concept would have been like that. Because I saw that back in their pre-conference.
Because they do all over.
Right.
Because this is a unique situation. They were ready to go. Somebody else may not be because they're not gonna wanna invest in it all the way until you guys are okay with it. So that's where the general plan comes in. They're gonna just give us a general. They're not gonna want all the landscaping, all that kind of stuff.
But if they're ready to rock, we shouldn't hold them up and say,
that was
well,
the
we
part-
need 30 days and you gotta get it recorded in
realize it
another
wasn't in
meeting
there.
and.
So we can add that in. I'm not sure why it wasn't in there. We had been operating like it was that way, so,
Yeah, I think just make.
You mean the notation, to just speed it up, is that what you're saying?
so we allowed a couple of them to go right to the SIP because they were small projects and they already had the site plan there, so.
I think we should have something in there to say no more car wash in the village of Weston.
I can't do that.
No.
I knew that's where you're going when you asked.
How many car wash, how many do we need really? I mean.
What difference does it make?
They met the.
First of all, they're gonna run each other out of business. That's the one thing. And the other thing is, there is no need for it.
You drove here.
It actually should be down.
6 car wash we have.
Now you have 11 options on your way home. You can go get your car wash. These guys are open until.
I will do that.
Open until 8.
Just start driving by them until you find one with no line. That's where I'm going.
Yeah. I like the one that they clean inside.
All right, you got what you need for that?
Yeah,
We
I
good?
think so.
All right, 18, project updates.
You done?
Does that include?
So will this come back then, April maybe?
Yeah, I'll get something back.
I just.
It'll have to go to
I didn't
hearings.
know if he was done with this going through or not, that's all.
Okay, does that include sit-up days?
I presume it does.
Okay,
Yes, all updates. Instead of spelling them out, it's just all updates going forward. Project updates.
I like that.
It can be anything.
So who goes first, me?
Who's on second?
So we had we got a report on the amount of money that, or the expenses we've had today with redevelopment resources. It was sent to everybody today. Didn't make the packet, unfortunately. We had received it, just had our signals crossed, but with Kristen and redevelopment resources, it's just a little over 11,000, I believe. Sent that email out to everybody earlier today. 11,452, what began in April of last year. So we're still working with her on a hourly basis. And she's been in contact with all the property owners up and down the avenue. As I understand it, I don't know, Joe, you can confirm, I suppose, if you had contact there.
Yes.
And she mentioned in her report last time, there are some uncertainty with the economy. So she said developers weren't necessarily all keen on doing anything. As you know, there is activity there in TID 2. We've had conversations with Intercity State Bank. The board's going to be seeing a development agreement for the property across from Quick Trip, the northwest corner of Birch and Schofield Avenue on Monday. Raleigh Lockray indicates he's ready to bring something forward on a development west of Caribou Coffee. And there's still some other land out there. She's getting the word out that, the time is short on our ability to help. So, there's been some activity. I think with respect to the amount of time it's been out there, it's pretty encouraging, I would think. So, not sure what else to say on that. In TID 1, we did process grant payments, or are in the process of doing that, for the Eau Claire River LLC property and the Tommy Docks. Eau Claire River LLC will be getting their second grant payment this year. That's a little over $30,000 that will be coming to them, and 38,780, give or take, for Tommy Docks. So that's good news for those developers. That's part of their agreements. Assessed value on those two Tommy Docks is a little over $2 million, and Eau Claire River LLC is 1.66 in a round number. So it's all good for the village in the end. I think we just got an inquiry on land interest again out in TID 1, right?
Yes.
So there's some people kind of beating the bushes. We did have a meeting with a developer a week ago who's going to be bringing forth a rezoning
They
application.
submitted it today.
So that'll be on the agenda next month for a project at the interchange of J and 29.
Across from Fabric there?
Yes. So, so there are some things going on. No, we can't.
They won't even tell us.
There-
It's called
Although we
project.
we did advise them, we can't really follow a non-disclosure thing, but, they haven't given us a lot of detail.
We have a site plan they submitted, so you'll see the site plan. It's a small distribution center that they're calling Project Timberwolf. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Keith, in TID, what's on scope? Is it TID 1 in Schofield?
TID 2.
TID 2.
Does that encompass the what is left in there for grant money for TIF money for these developers? Is there a?
I don't know that I don't think we've been even committed any.
We haven't committed any money when we made that plan, yeah.
We will with this, proposal coming up in, next week.
The first one on Monday.
I don't remember what the number was in there. Was it under $1 million?
That's what was available for them?
Well,
For. Well, if they, it's the but for, if there's requirements that we can't meet the amount of funding or to make the job go, that helps them get the funding and
So the
gets the
one-
village, the project as well.
But didn't we, in that, I don't know, there's like 12 things on that one chart that were there, wasn't there like $4 million set aside or up to 4 million or 6?
I thought it was something in that range.
For development and redevelopment? It was 8.
yeah, we had some monies, essentially earmarked for, site redevelopment costs, developer incentives. I don't remember what the number is. I have to,
Okay.
It was 2.75 for development incentives and 750,000 for land acquisition prep. So.
300, basically 3.5.
Yeah, so 3.5.
And that's
we could probably take action to move that around if need be.
Is there any further action on the village, the old village hall at all? I mean, any?
Haven't gotten back to it yet. We want to get the asbestos situation evaluated and then I guess talk about what we want to do going forward. Did you follow Kristen at all yourself?
She asked me about it and I was actually with the company that we had a proposal with. And I just walked away a little bit from it, just due to the fact of where the rates have gone. But they wanna plunge forward. I just said it may cost more money. So.
Yeah, so that's outside the TID. We'd have to probably do some with our capital improvement with CIP funds to prep that site or whatever. I don't, that's something we need to work on a little bit yet here this coming season, I would say, with the board.
Kristen had mentioned, I thought she had mentioned that was part of the TID or within the boundaries of the TID.
It's within
TID
a
one.
half
It's
mile
close to
of,
the redevelopment area, right?
it's within a half mile of TID one. So
So-
originally we were gonna, there was something with that, it's within the half mile.
Yeah. I know there was, you guys had sent that proposal out and she called in question of it, which she's doing, she's doing a good job following up on with people. I asked her who she all contacted on it as well as I threw some names out there to make sure she checked on a couple of developers. At the time, I just said that I had pulled away from it. I had too much stuff going on and I was hesitant because of the interest rates where they were climbing and what was going on. So she said she's hearing similar things from other developers as well. So everybody was kind of hanging low, trying to figure out what's going to go on with our economy. But I was just asking that question as if there's any movement on the building. Are you obviously still using salt shed? I'm assuming right now, currently going to continue to do that. Are they using some of the buildings in back for anything right now yet or storage or Michael, or is that, no?
We're in the process of getting all those cleaned out.
So then it's just a matter, has anybody done any asbestos testing at all, Keith? No, because I think you guys
Proposal
are.
from REI to go to do it. I'll just get approved by the board next Monday and we'll cut them loose on that.
You're gonna use REI or you use, you should get some bids on that. Because there's a company on Wozni that does all of that. We use them, pretty reasonable.
It's fairly, well, I think it's something in the range of $9,000 what they're asking for. Gonna do destructive testing on it. I don't know.
Have you gotten any other quotes at all or just one?
No, I didn't.
It's not a big deal. You just punch a hole through the drywall or
Yeah.
grab a sample and that's
Yep.
not a big deal. But they gotta have proper suit on and the mask on and
Yeah.
And as we say, that's safe.
Anything else as far as updates?
The Mount Olive site plan is supposed to be submitted for their project. I don't remember if it has to come back through here or,
Oh, that's right, that's the.
yeah, I'm not sure what it,
Okay,
they had a couple ideas.
okay, cool. All right, if there's nothing else, item number 19, announcements and committee or commissioner remarks. Michael?
Got nothing.
Dave?
Oh, sir.
I've said enough.
Nothing?
Just a comment to Michael, if that car wash doesn't have a retention basin or detention basin, and he can't discharge it directly to the storm system, he can do what all they did over here.
Yep, no, exactly.
They can do that, and
It's just a matter of if they're, even if their land area is over an acre,
right,
if they don't disturb an acre, then they don't have to follow those requirements. So depending on how much of that embankment that they're not disturbing on that east side, right, going up the hill, they might only be disturbing 0.9 acres. Well, then technically they don't have the same requirement.
whatever they're showing on their plan,
Yeah, so we'll have to,
there is.
you know, like,
Yeah, we
the-
just got the site plan, so.
Yeah, then they don't have to follow the,
then they don't fall under that, the whole stormwater management plan.
yeah, if it's under an acre.
Like where the Pizza Hut and AT&T is, I think they were 0.98 acres. And they staked out their lot so that they didn't disturb anything extra. So we have had one where.
The only other thing that I saw in that plan, Michael, that would be an issue would be is that we're outside their lot lines where they're doing their sewer and water tie-ins.
Sure.
And the sewer went through, which I was gonna ask, but I figured you would ask some questions later.
Yeah, I haven't looked at their plans.
I see it going through and tying into a manhole that's literally at the street, but that was going in front of the grocery store. So I'm assuming that's, from the looks of the plan, it looked like that was a grocery store property. So I'm sure they gotta have some kind of a.
Yeah, and the right of way gets pretty goofy in there too.
Yeah, this property actually has a business 51 address. And so I'm trying to get them to change it to Roquin because that's where their entrance is. So.
In Weston?
Yes.
Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I have one thing. It sounds like we got a super full schedule coming up in March already. Do we want to pick another, do we want to pick another date if you need to have a second meeting between March and April?
Well, I can just see what's going on because, the packets need to go out before, they need to be to you by Wednesday. So that's going to be a factor.
Okay.
So with site plans and things like that, I've just been, because they all call and they're like, when can the last minute, can I get it to you so that you can get it on the agenda?
I'd say a week before.
I can't give them that. Right now, there's a lot of stuff coming in. And if it's a good plan and I don't have to give it back for revisions, it's like, once I give it to them and they have to revise it, then they kind of go back to the back, because I'm working on other things for other people. So whoever gets done first will get put on the agenda.
You gotta hear it now.
Yeah.
I guess all I was saying is if it's busy and we got, maybe send us an email and
Yeah,
we can make a
always
day work.
add-
We can add a meeting if we need to.
Some of it doesn't work with
I don't wanna hold
board
anybody up.
meetings and things, but it should be fine. Some of it won't have to go for you, like to you, so we can work on it in tangent, but it's the ones that have to come to you that we really have to make sure that they're ready to go. And I have a lot less time, like hearing notices go next week already. And we're not even done with this meeting.
Sounds good. Keith, you have anything to add?
Nope, unless you have any questions.
Jen, anything else? Aaron? Valerie? No, okay. Next regular meeting date, Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 6 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Deason,
Second.
second by Hermeling. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so carried. Compatible.